The most valuable skill in the world right now is not coding, not leadership, not communication, not financial intelligence. It is the ability to focus deeply on a single hard problem for an extended period of time without distraction. And it is disappearing fast. We are living through the greatest attention crisis in human history. The average person now switches tasks every 47 seconds. 47 seconds! And after each interruption, it takes an average of 23 minutes to return to full cognitive engagement with what they were doing. Do the math on a standard working day, and you will find something that should terrify you. That most people are spending the majority of their waking hours in a state of fractured, shallow, perpetually interrupted semi-attention that produces the feeling of being busy while generating almost none of the deep work that actually moves their life forward. The people who understand this, the ones who have protected their focus with the same ferocity that other people protect their money, are operating in a different league. Not because they are smarter, because they are deeper. Because they have learned to go to the places in their work and thinking that the distracted world cannot reach. And what they produce from those places is not just better, it is categorically different. It is the kind of work that changes industries, builds legacies, and creates the gap between ordinary and extraordinary that looks like talent from the outside and feels like focus from the inside. Welcome to Motivation Daily. Today, I want to show you what deep focus actually looks like when it is weaponized, through 3 people whose relationship with concentrated attention produced results that the distracted world still cannot fully explain. Think about Cal Newport, the computer science professor at Georgetown University, who has spent his career studying how people produce remarkable work, and who coined the term deep work to describe the kind of cognitively demanding, distraction-free concentration that produces the results most people only dream about. What most people do not know is that Newport himself practices what he preaches with a rigidity that most of his academic peers consider extreme. He does not have social media. He batches all shallow tasks into defined time blocks. He protects the hours of his peak cognitive performance, the hours when his mind is freshest and most capable of the hard thinking that his research demands, with a ferocity that means saying no to almost everything that tries to occupy them. The result is a body of academic work produced at a rate and quality that his peers find difficult to match, alongside a series of books that have genuinely changed the conversation about how human beings can and should work in the age of digital distraction. He does not produce more than other academics because he works more hours. He produces more because the hours he works are deeper. Now, think about Bill Gates. Every year, twice a year, Gates takes what he calls Think Weeks, solo retreats to a small cabin in the Pacific Northwest where he spends 7 days alone, reading, thinking, and working without meetings, without staff, without the interruptions that constitute most of a CEO's existence. No visitors, no schedule. Just Gates and a stack of papers, and the uninterrupted space to think through the most complex problems facing Microsoft and the world. Some of the most important strategic decisions in Microsoft's history, including the company's pivot to embrace the internet in the mid-90s, emerged not from boardrooms or brainstorming sessions, but from the solitary, focused, deeply concentrated thinking of a single person who had protected enough silence to actually hear his own best ideas. The cabin was not a luxury, it was a competitive weapon. The depth it produced was not available in the noise of ordinary corporate life. Gates understood that the quality of his thinking determined the quality of his decisions, and the quality of his decisions determined the trajectory of one of the most important companies in history. So he protected the conditions for quality thinking with the same seriousness that most people protect their calendar.
And think about Toni Morrison, not for the first time in this series, but for a reason specific to this conversation. Morrison wrote her Nobel Prize-winning novels while working as a full-time editor and raising 2 children as a single mother. She did not have the luxury of extended retreat or dedicated writing days or the uninterrupted creative space that most people believe is the prerequisite for serious literary work. What she had was 5 a.m, that single hour before her children woke and before the editorial demands of her day began. She has spoken about those early morning sessions as the most productive and the most essential of her entire creative life. Not because she had the most time, but because she had the most focus. No phone ringing, no emails arriving, no peripheral demands pulling at her attention. Just the page and the mind and the absolute, undivided concentration of a person who understood that the depth available in one focused hour was worth more than 3 distracted ones. She did not write around the edges of her day. She carved out the deepest part of it and gave it entirely to the work. The result was a body of literature that the Nobel Committee described as giving life to an essential aspect of American reality. Here is what those 3 stories share. None of them produced their most important work by trying to do more. All of them produced it by protecting the conditions for going deeper, by treating their focused attention not as something that happened when everything else was handled, but as the most important resource they managed, to be scheduled, defended, rationed carefully, and never surrendered to the shallow without a fight. And here is what this means for you today. Somewhere in your life, in your work, in your creative practice, in the problem you have been trying to solve, there is a level of quality and output available to you that you have never accessed because you have never truly focused long enough to reach it. It exists below the surface of the distracted, task-switching, notification-checking version of work that most people spend their entire careers doing. It is reached not by trying harder, but by going deeper, by closing the tabs, by silencing the alerts, by giving your best cognitive hours, the hours when your mind is sharpest and most capable, to the hardest thing, instead of the most urgent thing. 1 deep hour is worth more than a day of shallow ones. Protect it like your future depends on it, because it does. Share this with someone who is busy all day but never gets to the work that actually matters. Subscribe to Motivation Daily. We go deep every single day. Drop a comment and tell me, when is your deep work hour? And what are you going to protect it for today? Name it. Guard it. That is where your best work lives. Let's go.